raising women's voices.
One story at a time.
Welcome to the She Said Project podcast. So at the She Said Project, we help women share their stories live on stage. And we like to say that some will make you belly laugh, some will make you ugly cry, and everything in between, because life is interesting enough and everyone has a story. So today on the podcast, we get to share with you another incredible story. And I'm really excited because this is a beautiful story of something that many, many women go through. But we're going to hear a really unique perspective. So I'm Jeanette Jerzyk, your host, National Director of the She Said Project. And she's just sitting there smiling and nodding, as you do.
Well, I am because, I'm excited to see you, of
and
course.
Introduce yourself, please.
Carrie Rosso,
yes,
co-founder.
Of yes, it is, of course.
But I love storytelling. But today we're going to talk about one of my favorite things.
Which is?
Talk about birth stories.
Yes.
I love this. I inevitably, when a group of women are together, often, at the stage that I'm at now, it's like a remember when. But back in the day, once you'd had, there was just something bonding and something that really, reliving it because it's such an intense experience and sharing it and telling. And I have had some of my hardest belly laughs over the honest tellings of things that happen in childbirth.
You brought it to the stage a little bit yourself. You shared some of those moments. It's happening.
Well, it gets a bad rap. That probably isn't a fair statement to make. But often you hear these horror stories, and it's birth, so it's certainly hard. But I've just heard so many great and funny stories.
Without a doubt, childbirth is one of the most intense, life-changing moments a woman can experience. And so, of course, every birth has a story, whether it went well or not. Yeah.
It's things that might not have been so funny then. You look back and you're like, I did do that, didn't I?
Yeah, no. And women like to share. So, and it's one of those things, we don't bring it up all the time. Sometimes it's a little TMI moment. But when women are willing to sit back, let's go. Let's tell me every stinking detail.
Yes, I love it.
I want to know the color of the nurse's hair, But here's the thing, and that's what she said. Quite often, women who join a cast who are asked to share a story, they're like, oh, okay, the most profound thing. And often it's the hardest or the darkest. And when childbirth, becomes the topic, it's usually because something did not go as planned, which created, a more dramatic story. But today we get to chat with Hannah Ramlo from our Peoria cast just about a year ago, who is going to share with us her incredible journey to motherhood. So welcome, Hannah.
Thank you.
To the She Said Project
so
podcast.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
So 1 year ago, you shared your story on stage, and now what made you say yes to coming and hanging out with us on the podcast today?
I've been listening to the podcast, and
thank you. You're one of our 12 listeners. Thank you.
You helped me shape the story, but we have not really gotten to talk since.
We really haven't.
I was just excited to see you again and meet you, and I haven't watched my own story, so I was like, this would be a good opportunity to sit down and watch it with someone else and relive it a little bit. And birth is also one of my favorite things to talk about. So when there's a willing audience and willing women who want to talk about it, because I'm like you, I want to know every detail, and it's kind of a scary thing to talk about. You're not always sure, how it will be received. So.
I'm so curious if there's a why that you haven't watched your own story.
Not really. I'm a little scared to, I'm not a theater person. I'm not used to watching myself on a stage under bright lights, and I don't wear makeup like that typically. So it just feels a little bit distant from who I am on the daily, and I like to feel very authentic in my skin. So I'm a little scared of that.
Out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Carrie will hold your hand. It's totally fine. It's good. It's
all
good.
Just like a delivery. So we can imagine. I'm so excited about this. But how did you, if we go back even further, how did you get connected with She Said? And did you know right away, like, this is what I'm talking about?
So Nikki Romaine in Peoria, is the producer there, asked me. I had been nominated by another woman in town who knew my story from, not my birth story, but my story that I started a nonprofit in Peoria. So she knew about me from that part of my life, the woman who nominated me. And they asked me at a weird time because I was actually stepping down from being the executive director of the nonprofit I started and had ran for 7 years. So I was in this transition moment where I was trying to figure out what comes next for me and feeling untethered because that had really defined who I was in the community for that whole time. I said yes because I was like, this will help me understand what I'm doing right now. Like, it will help me reflect on who I am without the organization. And so I really didn't know what story I was going to tell, but I had a feeling it would be something about that transition time and the quitting of the job that I had been doing.
Talk about the nonprofit and the work that you did in the community, because it's important.
Yeah, so in 2018, I opened Soulside Healing Arts, which is a yoga-based and mindfulness and meditation nonprofit. So it's a kind of a hybrid model. We bring pay what you can yoga to our studio space, and then also in workplaces and in the community and different social service agencies and schools, all from a trauma-informed perspective. So the idea that yoga can be really healing for people who have experienced any kind of trauma if we're approaching it the right way and making it accessible both physically and financially. So I went to school for nonprofit leadership and then opened that organization after studying at Bradley University in their nonprofit leadership master's program. So I had been running that for 7 years. I'm still a teacher there. We also opened a doula program through the organization.
So you're a teacher at the studio that you founded that you no longer run.
Right.
You just want to be a teacher.
Yep.
And I knew about the doula program, which is so in alignment with your vision of how birth could be. How's that program going?
It's slow going. We're still building, really. We started building it in 2023. Really like envisioning this network of doulas who, in the same way, we work with a pay what you can model so that everyone can have access to birth and postpartum doulas. And so if people can pay more, then that can help subsidize the program for those who can't pay. And then we also apply for grants for that program. So we've won a few grants. We've had some great successes, and we've been rolling out matches. We match doulas with the clients who apply for the program. But we need more funding, and it's not mine anymore. So it's kind of like I'm watching from the background. I'm cheering them on. I'm a postpartum doula myself in the program, so I now serve as an independent contractor, both as a yoga teacher and a postpartum doula. So our program offers 20 hours of postpartum care. So that could start as early as still in the hospital or home, wherever the baby was born, with nutrient-dense foods and checking in on the mom, making sure, maybe they want to process what happened. And postpartum doulas need to be armed with a lot of resources. So we're not medical professionals, but we might know a lactation consultant and just we're a listening ear so we can plug people into where they need to be for the best outcomes. And then we do a lot of house chores. So within those first couple months, we might we might come to their house a couple times a week and do their laundry and their dishes and change the bed sheets. And like the goal is to keep mom and baby together, bonding, and we take care of everything else that we can so that they can rest and heal. Yeah. And I didn't know this. I didn't have a postpartum doula, but my mom and my sister were there doing all those things. And I was like, this is how it's supposed to be.
Yep.
So then I found the postpartum doula training after my baby was born, and I went through it immediately. It was like, anybody that I can provide this service for, I love doing it.
So you're passionate about it. You got trained. You became one. So now you're a teacher and a doula.
I am.
And a mama.
And a mom, yep.
And your daughter is?
She's 4.5. Yeah. So yeah, all that experience. I didn't know I wanted to have a baby. It was sort of a surprise for me, and then to go through it all, it just changed my world. Now I never want to be far from that birthing world.
So to go from not wanting to have that experience to all in.
Yeah, not wanting, just not knowing. I never grew up feeling like, oh, I'm going to have babies. It just wasn't part of my narrative for myself. But I'm open to everything. Like, I am such an adventurer. I want to know what my body can do. So at some point I started being like, I think I might want to have a baby, what's that like, you know? And then when it happened, I was just very open to it and excited. And
Women are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
at what
It's
we can
amazing.
do.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm always like in shock, and I am amazed by what the human body can do, especially women. And but like at every stage, I remember like breast milk coming in and being like, "Look at
whoa,
this!
yeah.
Like
Can you believe?
I made milk!" Like
Right. I mean,
all of it is just amazing. Like
it's the most natural thing. It's happening all the time, every day.
And yet
it's
we're
still
shocked.
just
still.
like, how
we're still
does
completely
this
shocked
happen?
by this process.
yes.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to actually share your. We're going to watch your story together. We'll hold hands. We'll sing "Kumbaya," and then we'll check back in with our guests. We'll be right back. We know you're going to enjoy another amazing story from a She Said sister. This is Hannah Ramlo from That's What She Said, Peoria 2025, and her story, The Quitter.
I've been teaching yoga for 10 years, and it's a practice of embodiment and presence. So when I started to notice that I was not being very present with my work or with my daughter, I decided to quit. Quitting meant setting down the work I've been doing for 7 years since I founded Soulside Healing Arts, a nonprofit holistic wellness organization. Quitting meant trusting someone else to carry the vision forward while I took a backseat role. See, I've built a job full-time from scratch, doing what I love, and I'm really proud of that. But it doesn't earn me enough to have full-time childcare. And I don't want to be away from my 3-year-old 40 hours a week. So I quit. This February, I stepped down and onboarded a new executive director. And as I was asked to write this story right in the time of that transition, I started to think about other times in my life I've been known to be a quitter. And that is to say, other times I've followed my gut to set something down that was no longer right for me. There's a family anecdote I'll never live down of the time I quit swim team. My sister was an amazing swimmer. My cousins were great swimmers. And in my small town, I was expected to swim too. I went to my first practice when I was 8 years old. It was 6 a.m. or some other ungodly hour in the summertime, and the pool was freezing, and I hated every minute of it. I told my parents, I'm not going back. And it was a fight. They tried to instill that lesson in me about finishing what we start. And I'm sorry, Mom and Dad, but that didn't stick. I remember feeling like it was the right thing to do to quit something I wasn't enjoying. Another time I quit something you're not supposed to quit was my marriage. While I had to process a lot of shame around being a 26-year-old divorcee, I never doubted for a second it was the right decision. My ex and I married young, and we learned over time we were better friends than spouses. We're still good friends to this day. We separated with respect and love, having decided that 26 was too young to commit to something for the rest of your life that didn't quite feel right. Flash forward a handful of years later when my current partner and I found out that we're pregnant. When I suspected I was pregnant, I made an appointment with my OBGYN office where I had been going to regular checkups for years. And they confirmed my pregnancy. And they also gave me absolutely no time and absolutely no space for any concerns I might be having. They handed me an insulated backpack full of baby formula and said to make an appointment in 4 weeks. Baby formula? At 6 weeks pregnant? I did not make that next appointment. Instead, I quit the medical industrial plan for my birth. I sat down with my friend, who's a birth doula, and I got the support I was looking for, the space and time to ask the insane amount of questions that I had. At that first appointment, I was treated like I was on an assembly line, and I know there's a lot of patients to get through, but I knew immediately that was not the experience I wanted for my birth. I wanted a provider who would share in my excitement or my worries, who wouldn't just hand me a product they had some kind of corporate deal with before learning anything about the viability of my pregnancy or my desired outcomes. And because I'd been building contacts in the holistic world of Peoria for a few years, I'd come across several acquaintances who had home births. Before I got pregnant, I would have said, no way. If a baby is being born at home, it must have been an accident. But after hearing more and more of these stories of peaceful, healthy babies intentionally born at home, it started to make some sense. So I met with a certified professional nurse midwife in her home office and started my journey to a home birth. My pregnancy was so peaceful. No panicked providers scaring me with unnecessary tests. My midwife and doula helped me understand physiological childbirth, the body's hormonal cascade that leads to a positive labor. And while no birth is predictable and you can do everything to prepare and still have a traumatic birth, I'm here to tell you my experience. And my experience was the most beautiful birth I could have asked for. Labor requires a rise in oxytocin. And I knew that for me, I would have a much higher chance of my natural oxytocin levels spurring productive labor and birth if the lighting was low and if I was only surrounded by the people I'd invited and chosen to be there, not strangers coming in and out. My midwife never touched me during labor, not once. No invasive pelvic exams. She understood that the baby would come when it was ready and that my body was going to do what it needed to do. And it did. As a first-time mom, I was told I'd labor forever, that I'd call my midwife and doula too soon, and that after my water broke, I might wait 24 hours before labor kicked in. Well, my water broke, which, by the way, is not always the first indicator of labor like the movies make it seem. But mine did break, and after 4 hours of laboring in my own bedroom, my baby girl was in my arms. My partner made me a grilled cheese sandwich while I nursed her. My midwife and doula stayed for about 2 hours, keeping me warm and doing health checks and sharing the stories of their own home births. This is what birth is supposed to be like. My partner talks about the energy in the room that night, how in awe he was of the women who gathered to bring this baby into the world, how calm my birth team was. In that moment of transition in labor that so many people experience, where I thought, I cannot keep going, I might die, I heard my doula's voice saying, everything is going exactly as it's supposed to. And I believed her, and she was right. My home birth and the 2 weeks after were the most peaceful and empowering of my whole life. My mom and sister stayed for 2 weeks, but they understood my rules. This time was for me to bond with my baby and not pass her around to visitors. I was so lucky that I had midwives and doulas and experienced moms in my corner who told me to tell them that, and I'm so lucky they understood. They were there to wash my dishes and do my laundry and make sure I ate enough, and if I asked them to hold my baby. And it was the recipe for a newborn sanctuary. It helped me and my baby bond like we were meant to. Later, I learned about postpartum doulas, and 6 months after my birth, I trained to become one. Because I believe everyone deserves that kind of peace in their homes after having a baby. In fact, I believe the health of our society depends on it. Around the same time, some other birth and postpartum doulas were circling my orbit, and it was established that one of them had the capacity to manage a new arm of Soulside that we'd been dreaming about since we opened, a community doula program. So now anyone can request birth or postpartum doula support and pay what they can, regardless of income. And we support the program through donations and grants. Since launching in November 2023, we've served over 16 births and 6 postpartum clients. I know as a doula and a mother that an empowered birth where you have all the information and your wishes are respected makes all the difference in the foundation we then build with our children. How incredible that because I said no to the things that were not right for me, I got to break the cycle of my mother line's story, generation after generation of traumatic births, and start my life with my daughter in absolute bliss. I know that when my daughter sees the choices I make, she'll learn that it's okay to quit things that are no longer right for you. And in fact, a whole new world opens up when you do.
Let's continue singing Kumbaya. Like I'm feeling the Zen.
Well, you know, one of the things that she said that I hadn't thought about is the generational part. Like my mom literally like went under, like had, I forget, was it
They call
ether?
it
Do you
twilight,
know? Like
twilight sleep.
She was a goner. Like woke up and like, there's your baby.
How'd that baby come out?
I don't know. It's a mystery.
Yeah, and it's so common. And it's why I'm sometimes scared to share my birth stories, because I know that it's going to open up a box of traumatic ones, because that's the most common experience from generations past.
And the thing is, you had this beautiful, blissful, healthy, holistic home birth, and yet I'm literally listening to it with a combination of curiosity and envy and the thing is, I know in my heart of hearts that's how it's supposed to be. And yet I think we've all been, and this, like, we're not here to disrespect the medical community, the amazing OBGYNs who are doing amazing work. I had a wonderful OB deliver my 2 babies, but it's still, we're not used to it.
Yeah.
It's a story that we're not familiar with.
And thank you for saying that, Jeanette. It's so important to note that any birth is a natural birth. Like, there's no the thing that I say at the end of my talk is, as long as a woman knows and I don't even, not even just women, as long as a birthing person knows their options and feels empowered to choose the best birth for them, then it can be an empowered birth. It can be a wonderful birth. It can be in a hospital. It can be at home. But it depends on the autonomy of the birthing person to make those choices and be supported in them.
Did you have the right information? Did you get to select the options that were best for you and your baby?
Yeah.
And were they honored?
Informed consent.
Right.
You know?
And how great to tell people these are the things you might want to share with your support system. I did not want anybody holding my baby, but it didn't occur to me to say, I just want to hold them. And so I had like a wrap thing. And then I would always just say, like, it's really hard to get them out of this. So
Yeah,
sorry.
they're sleeping.
Why did I not just say, I just want to hold them all the time?
And that's the science supports that, right? Like the babies should be bonding with their moms in those first days and weeks and months of life. Not that we can't share the love with our families, but to figure out what the boundary is and be willing to set that can really set the stage for a happy and healthy postpartum period.
Wow. So you had the home birth of your dreams, and your daughter's now 4.5. What I love about your story is that you learned about this world, made it possible for you, and now you make it possible for others.
Yeah, it felt like the only thing to do. Like, I saw how different it was for me from others around me who didn't have these opportunities, these experiences, and it immediately was just trying to figure out how to make it more accessible to have these options.
Had you seen a birth before? Because I'm thinking
No, I knew
you
nothing.
took that leap and you
I
had
knew
never been
nothing.
in a
No,
birth
I
room.
was 29 when I became pregnant. Like I said earlier, I had not been thinking about having a baby. It was in a world I had no idea about. However, several of our yoga teachers happened to be birth doulas, and one of them was one of my very good friends. So she was very connected to that world, and just through her, I knew enough to ask the next right question and find that group of people. And then it just opened up, and I was like, oh, you had a home birth? Oh, you had a home? It was like everybody around me had home births, and I didn't know. And so while I was pregnant, I was filling my my ears with these positive birth stories from people I knew, but also podcasts and books. I was just trying to fill like all that content need, all the things that I listen to and read with positive birth stories with good outcomes. And I really think that helped. I really think, not that I wasn't like open to the possibility that something could go wrong. I lived 2 miles from a hospital. I had prepared for those possibilities, but I really spent my time studying what goes right and how it goes right.
That's a new way. That's completely new to, I think, the way we think.
It's a
in
common
this world.
thread instead of looking at the things that go wrong, like when things are going well and successful and nothing out of the ordinary. What are those specifics? What are we doing to support women and things that you're doing during pregnancy, during labor, all of those things isn't an accident, that you have this outcome.
Carrie, you had four babies in 5 years. What's your favorite birth story? Okay, maybe not favorite, wrong word. But like most
it is kind of
memorable
blurry.
moment? I don't know.
I always
What
say I was in
stands
a
out?
lactating coma for like 6 straight years, so it is all a little blurry. It's
a little
but
hazy.
I feel so lucky. Like we have a great community of midwives here, and not just them, but lactation. I was so consumed every pregnancy you would think I would have learned with the labor, and it's going to hurt. is all I could think about. And I would make myself make other plans. And every single time there would be some little lactation thing that would throw me for a loop. And I remember thinking how lucky I was that we had this community, because I could just barge in and like, help a sister. Like, what's going on? What do we got going here? And how can I do this more efficiently and less painfully, or whatever the situation was at the time? And it's like having doulas and midwives and lactation. What a wonderful world in just one generation. My mom didn't have any of those things.
So interesting. You're talking about the cycle and the generation. So my mother was like Earth Mother. Like, so she had all natural births, meaning no medication, and breastfed, made her own organic homemade baby food. Like, she did all the things. She was a member of La Leche League. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm remembering that. Like, there was community around, caring for your newborn baby. And so that was my role model, so if that's what that's what you strive for. And then my sister had 3 medication-free births. And I was this close to being in the room for her youngest. It was over the holidays. I was living in California at the time, and I flew to Richmond, Virginia. I mean, she was in her early 20s, so I was really young. But my sister and I are very close, and she wanted me to be there because it was her 3rd and final. And we went through the holidays. I had taken 2 weeks off of work and life and stayed with them, and the baby didn't come. And my flight was coming on January 6th. I had a flight home, and we were like, do I stay? Do I wait? But there's no guarantees. It could be a day, it could be a week. You don't know. So I flew home on January 6th, and my beautiful niece was born on January 7th without me in the room. And it was just one of those things, like, you just don't know. And so I just missed it. So I know I had never seen it or been in it, and other than, the movie you watch in health class.
Yeah.
And
they sometimes show you that to scare you, right?
Correct.
Like, it's not,
And so we had a birth plan in so much that I did not want an epidural. I wanted to feel everything. Carrie knows I'm what I call an emotion junkie. I love the feels.
Same.
I want to feel all the things, the good, the bad, the ugly. Even with Pitocin, I felt all the things for 24 hours. And so I was grateful that my OB honored all of that, but it was intense. It was incredibly intense, but it was all hospitalized. I was all monitored. I had 2 geriatric pregnancies because, once you're more than 35, you get a fun little label. You get a fun little label. And so you're high risk, and they watch. And I think I had preeclampsia with my first one. And so, then they don't want you to leave. They want to keep an eye on you.
Yeah. And that's something else that I want to point out is, like, I had a complication-free pregnancy, which allowed me to have that home birth of my dreams. If a complication had come up, then our midwife would have suggested I go into the hospital and work with the OB that she partners with. So there's so many things that just happen to be. You can prepare all you want and still have a birth that goes awry. There's no guarantees. So, in part it was preparation, in part it was luck. There's just, you can't ever guarantee what's going to happen with birth.
And pregnant, I always say, had I had morning sickness, had I had all the things that you hear about challenging pregnancies, our oldest would be an only child, because I felt like $1 million. Now, I gained like 80 pounds every time. So people would say to me, "Oh, you're miserable," because I looked so awful. And
you're like,
and it
I
was
get
like,
to
no,
eat Twinkies and Ho-Hos. I'm not miserable at all.
Fabulous. I felt so great, but people would consistently ask me, like, "How you doing there, sis?"
I have never felt so confident in a swimsuit as I did when I was 8 months pregnant.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah, I felt more confident in a swimsuit pregnant because
your body's so powerful.
Well, I also
so much cool stuff.
owned every curve. Yeah,
absolutely.
So, my second born was right at 12 pounds, and
12 pounds.
Yeah, and
at birth.
But again, I'm 6 feet tall. Like, it's very different for. My body is just, and he was my easiest delivery too, by the way. But he was breech, and so the midwives had called in a doctor and said, he was like, I've delivered breech babies before, but this looks like a 10-pounder. But he told me to go to a pool and stand on my head or on my hands, and was telling me to try this. And I was like, I'm being punked. Like, they're going to be there filming this woman who is like 80 pounds and throwing myself into the water trying to be upside down.
And it worked.
And he said, you'll likely know it has happened because it's such a big baby. It's going to be uncomfortable. I went, I did it. It was a vision of horror.
And he flipped.
I had no idea, no pain, no nothing. Went back, and sure enough, he had
Flipping babies. That's a
what
whole,
a weird thing.
It's a whole training. Flipping babies, getting your gravity to work with you when you find out they're breached to help flip the baby.
No
And
idea.
it doesn't have to be in a pool. It can be like upside down on your couch. All kinds of crazy things that doulas learn to.
Well,
flip
I
their
now
babies.
have a vision of Carrie I will never
Yeah,
unsee.
I love that.
So we're going to take a quick break because I
You're
need
welcome.
to get a drink. So I love that we can just sit here and share our birth stories. And even as I'm listening, I'm realizing I think one of the reasons women are afraid to share is because there's this fear of, is someone going to judge me? Or, if I am anti-epidural and someone's pro-epidural, or if I want natural birth and someone had a C-section, there's like guilt and shame. And I mean, have you felt any of that? Has any of that been thrown at you?
Maybe I've blocked it out because
There's the
I
answer.
know that it has happened, but I don't have like clear memories of it happening. I think once you are confident in your choices, you do kind of block it out a little bit. And I've talked to so many people who have beautiful births with epidurals and beautiful births with C-sections. You're getting to meet your baby. Like how does it doesn't once the baby comes, like who cares how it happened, And I think that part, as a postpartum doula, I hear a lot of traumatic birth stories, and I try to help people get to that point where it's just, that is the story. That's your story. It happened the way it happened, and then you got to meet your baby. So I try to look at it and from that angle. But yeah, I'm scared. I like to choose to talk about that from the stage with your encouragement, Jeanette. Like
We talked about
I was
this, the
scared about
possibility.
people's
Yeah.
reactions. I was trained in trauma-informed yoga, so that's a lens that I walk around with all the time. Not that I'm trying to like walk on eggshells, but I'm very aware of how I'm asking questions and what assumptions I might be making about people, and like staying quiet and being a listener. Like I do not want to trigger people for no good reason, or just like walk around saying things that are triggering, and a birth can be very triggering. But I did like try to you helped me and finally got to that point of like, this is my story. I do own it. I don't own people's reactions to it.
No.
That's going to be on their
As
thing.
a matter of fact, one of our biggest tenets is by you sharing the good, the glory, the happy, the success of fill in the blank, you are giving other women permission to own their own beautiful stories too. Mm-hmm. By you trying to hide or, be careful or walk on eggshells around your own life's experience, what is that message you're sending to your daughter or to other women? Well, if it goes well, don't talk about it because,
Yeah, you might hurt someone else. Like, yeah, but and one of my cast members, or I don't know, my sisters, whatever you want to say, from the She Said group, also helped me get there because a lot of the stories, and hers in particular, was almost an opposite, like traumatic telling of her childhood. And, I felt like, oh my God, I am up here talking about my privilege. Like my privilege is just shining through in this story. All the things that had to lead to me having the education I have, to having the family support that I had. It felt uncomfortable for me to get up on stage and be like, listen to this amazing story, because I am so privileged when these people next to me are like talking about their traumatic childhoods. And she was the one who was like, you're telling a story about something that everybody deserves. You just happened to live it. We all deserve what you got. Like, tell the story. And that, not just the story, but has really shifted my perspective on privilege too. Like, I always have believed this. We all deserve a healthy childhood, loving, supportive parents. I happen to have it. I want everyone else to have that too. So,
girl,
yeah, talking about it and making sure that other people have access to those things is important.
Yeah, I'm having a deja vu moment. Earlier today, I went home. We had a brief break from the studio, and today is my husband and my anniversary, 17 years today. And I went home, and there were flowers and a cake. There were goodies delivered that my family is all on the East Coast. My mom and my brother had put together and sent. And I took a moment. I was in my kitchen. I was putting flowers in a vase. And I had to get back here, and I literally said, my life is amazing. I am so grateful. Why why would I try to shrink that down to make other people more comfortable? And it's gratitude. It's not arrogance. It's gratitude. It's, I do an amazing life. I do work hard for it, you know, and I do want that for everybody.
Yeah.
I do want everyone to have,
Not my life, not your life, but the
Right.
life that they feel comfortable and
but
proud of
whatever
and
joy
happy
means
in.
to you,
Yes.
whatever healthy relationship means to you, that's what I truly want for everyone. So I'm not going to shrink mine.
Yeah.
But don't
Yeah.
like everybody that I've ever talked with stories in all the differences, breastfed, bottle fed, C-section, vaginal birth, doula, not a doula. I've never had women, it feels like it's a construct because women are always like, oh my gosh, this was my experience, this was my experience. And it seems to be this give and take. But then when you step back, there's this whole idea of this, is it just a construct of pitting women against each other? And because I've never had the experience where someone was like, huh, you and your
I think
vaginal
it
birth.
happens more like online where people are hiding behind
Keyboard
screens.
courage.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I do think the experiences I have are more intergenerational. And I think part of that is a jealousy that comes out of like, wow, I never got that option. And it'll just be little sharp remarks like that. Wow, that must have
In
been
my day.
nice. You know,
Must
that
be
kind
nice.
of thing. And I was like, yeah, it was. I wish you could have experienced that, you know.
It's generational. I think it's geographical too. Like there's different hospital systems or different beliefs. We worked with a She Said speaker in a community in Illinois who's a midwife and is amazing. And we learned from her story that there were no certified midwives in Illinois until just a few years ago. She had to go to Indiana to get certified. She was working under the radar. Like she was part of the fight to get the legislation passed. And so just learning things like that, what's available to you isn't available to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like you said, your mom was in on that world already. So I mean, what we're returning to is ancient. Like,
Well,
it's
that's the
not
thing.
new. It's actually
She
ancient.
grew up in Europe, in Eastern Europe. She was an immigrant, and so she comes from the old country. You know, my grandparents were very old school. Everything is home cooked. Everything, you know, it's just a lifestyle and a philosophy. Now, obviously, she moved to America at age 13, and there's been a blend of all the things, but there's still some of those things that she witnessed and experienced that you don't forget.
And that it's a return. I think when I got knocked up and realized I wanted to learn more about it and the history of it and all of the things, and then realizing because being an entitled person and self-absorbed in the time I was born in, I just assumed this is how it always is, always has been, always. And then you start to realize like, oh my gosh, there's this whole history of different ways, and hopefully we're growing and learning and combining and keeping the good from all the different times.
Right.
But
Yeah, I mean, we're so lucky to have modern medicine in so many ways. And when doctors started getting involved in birth, they did make it seem like an emergency. And this is not an emergency. It's happening all the time. Midwives knew how to make it so that our bodies did what it was supposed to do. And it wasn't perfect. There was a lot of a lot of death involved in childbirth. So I'm not trying to paint a picture of in the past it was the traditional way was the best way. We need both. There's evidence-based births is a great website and resource that's pulling evidence from all these spaces. So it's looking at what's happening in homes with midwives, what's happening in hospitals, interventions, and all the evidence. So it's a great scientific resource if you're looking to like create that birth plan with good evidence on what's actually working.
and so much
love that.
better education for our partners. Had your partner seen a birth before?
No, he was in the same shoes as me, not even close to that world at all. I was really lucky because he just believed me and trusted me and wanted what I wanted. And I've heard a lot of stories about partners who push back and say, we're not having a home birth, no way, and don't trust the women and that kind of intuition that they have around it.
Listen to women.
Yeah, listen to women.
All right, we'll take one more quick break. We'll be right back. So something unique is also to each birth story is who's allowed in the room. I know that's very personal preference. So I think I was just sharing. So my husband was in the room, my mom, and then my best friend, Frank. We had been best friends since we were 11. He's a medical professional. And so we invited him into the room. So he was there for both of our daughter's births. But here's the cool part. He's a chiropractor. And so during labor, he actually did some pressure points for me to both move labor along and to help reduce, stress on certain parts of my body. So that was the good part. The bad part was that while my husband was putting pressure on my lower back during contractions, my lovely, darling, wonderful, amazing husband threw his back out by pushing too hard. And so I'm in the bed laboring, and my husband is on the floor, and my friend Frank is giving him a chiropractic adjustment.
Not your time.
In the delivery room on the floor. I'm not kidding. And when our daughter was born, guess who carried her home from the hospital in the car seat because my husband's back was thrown out. Oh. Yeah, so that's our fun
Bless
story.
Frank. Wow.
Were you a lot of people in the room person?
No,
or
no. I had my doula, who was my good friend, and my midwife. And the midwife usually comes with a birth assistant, but my doula was trained in that as well. So that midwife and doula happened to work really well together. So they didn't need the extra assistant because the doula was trained in CPR, baby CPR, and all of that. So it was just the doula and the midwife and my partner. And my mom actually lived 3 hours away from me at the time, and she happened to be in Peoria in town the day that I went into labor. So I didn't want my mom. We have a great relationship. And she was supportive of my home birth, but she was scared of my home birth.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that energy in the room. She understood, but she happened to be in town, and I went into labor 3 weeks early. So I didn't really feel prepared. I didn't have like infant diapers. I really wanted to have like some snacks for the birth team in the house. And so I called my mom, and I went in for myself, some fruit, I didn't know how long labor was going to be. So I called my mom and I was like, my water just broke. Could you please run and get a fruit platter and some infant diapers and come drop them off? So she did. And then she came in and hugged me and saw me in like the very early stages of labor. So it was very cool that I got to see my mom. But then I was like, all right, thank you.
We'll let you know what happens.
And she said she sat in my driveway until she saw my doula arrive because she was just like, are you kidding me? I'm supposed to leave now?
My baby.
Now that I am a mom, can understand how hard that had to be for her, and just really like value and respect that she respected my wishes, and it was so cool that she was in town because she did come over the next morning and bring me coffee after baby was born. So that was pretty cool.
So I just treated Frank as if he were my doula. I don't think I knew what a doula was at the time, but like
utilize that bodywork
he was my
skill
person,
set.
right?
Yes.
He also is a trained hairdresser, and so he was definitely doing my hair while I was in labor. There was this moment I'll never forget because I had been laboring for 20 plus hours. It was 3:00 in the morning. They were either going to amp up the Pitocin, push it forward, or take it down, and said, do you want to sleep? I said, if I go to sleep, do I get to eat? And they said, no. I said, then let's get this over with. And so we amped it up, and it got harder. And I literally said to the team, it was like 3 in the morning, and I said, okay, let me see if I get this right. I said, I need a tiara. And I don't know, I had like a list of 3 things, and I said, let's do this. And the nursing staff created a tiara for me. And I have this picture of me. It's 3:00 in the morning with a homemade tiara in my head. I was like, I need this, and I need a tiara, and let's do this. And we did it. That was story number 1.
Whatever you need, Mama.
They made it happen. They made it happen.
See that? Yeah. That tracks. Like I can see you in labor and delivery
I
with the
requested a tiara, and it happened. And baby number 2, I don't know what mental state it was in, but I requested 80s hairband ballads. And I very much was jamming out during every contraction to "Here I Go Again" on my
It's very thematic births. That doesn't surprise me.
Yep. Those are 2 of my stories. Wow. The thing, and I didn't want to go into like what do you regret, or what did you wish you had done differently. But I will say the one thing I wish I had done differently was the time leading up to the birth. I had a very high stress job, and I worked until the minute I was in labor. And I only took 2 weeks off work. Oh. And I am kicking myself. Mm-hmm. Now, I went back part-time, and I had some flexibility. And I actually lived in the building where I worked. I lived on site as a property manager. And my mother moved in with us and gave us a year of her life to take care of our baby so I could work. And I would go home and nurse and come back. Wow. So for that, I'm forever grateful. But I do wish I had taken more time off. And so going into my second pregnancy, I was like, I'm going to do it. I put in my notice 2 weeks before my due date, and the world went upside down. This wasn't COVID, but there was a huge storm. It was the polar vortex of 2014, and I couldn't take time off because our property got hit, and we had frozen pipes, and anyway, I ended up getting induced. It was a whole thing, but I had intended on going into the second one with what I had learned from the first, and it just didn't happen that way. And 12 weeks after she was born, I gave my notice.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, we are expected to carry on so quickly after birth, and in some countries, women get 2 years off from the moment they find out they're pregnant, which I believe in so much, because who can work in that first trimester? You're throwing up, you're sleeping,
When you're
like
pregnant,
awake for 2 hours,
stop
but you're
working?
blurry. In some countries, yeah, you start. You can take your 2 years starting at any point once you find out you're pregnant. And in this, I'm just like, and then you're you're in your third trimester and you're so tired. You're so tired. I was so lucky to have a flexible job. Like, I was just like, your people are going to the office like this. Like, I did have bad morning sickness for 12 weeks. It felt like a horrible flu. Yeah. How do you work during that? So yeah, we're expected to do a lot.
Yeah, I'm very grateful I did not have that, because there is, I don't know how people get up and brush their teeth, like those things. If I have something now, the slightest inconvenience, and I'm like,
I mean, I had moments, but I don't think I had very bad morning sickness. I actually loved being pregnant. I loved it. I felt great most of the time. Yeah. But I worked the whole time. Mm-hmm. Things I would do differently.
Strange.
Yeah. I don't know. Are there things, even with such an informed, would you do anything differently?
That's a good question. Nothing comes to mind. I feel really grateful about all the ways that it happened, and I did work for myself, so I was able to not work on days that I needed to nap. I wrote something on to my friend. I can't remember where I wrote it, but it was like, we have not been honoring pregnant people as much as we should in the workplace. Like, I remember as a leader, before I had ever experienced pregnancy, being a little disappointed when someone would like drop a meeting or not be able to come or whatever when they're pregnant or have children. And then becoming pregnant, I was like, the only thing that matters is a nap. The only thing right now that matters is that I'm sleeping. And I got to do that pretty much, is work with my own rhythms and flows. I was still working, and I had to work more sometimes to take that time off. And not everybody gets that, and not everybody can rely on a second income. It's just feels like a trap a little bit. Like, there's not a lot some people can do differently. But no, I was very lucky with that kind of flexibility with my work at the time.
And then having those memories as gifts, like we had 2 boys and 2 girls, and so I'd had a boy in June, and then when I was having the next baby in July, that month before the second baby was born, napping every day, because there is no fatigue like pregnancy fatigue, and those are some of my favorite memories. Just getting in bed with a little chubby cheek, toddler and your preggers, and just that, like, giving into the nap. What a beautiful thing.
Yes, and then breastfeeding is like you're running a marathon every month. You use the same amount of calories as running a marathon. So in 1 year of breastfeeding, it's like you've ran 12 marathons. Wow. And here's a fact that might make you upset. When the caloric suggestion for breastfeeding women was based on the assumption that you'd be trying to lose weight.
What?
Yes. And so it's less than you actually need, because it's like, well, you need this much, but you're probably trying to lose some pregnancy weight, so we'll scale it back a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah. Like the
women are
official
not eating
government
enough during breastfeeding.
recommendation. Wow.
Yes.
Well, that makes me feel better, because I was like, everybody keep your digits back, because I am like every meal.
Oh yeah, you
just
can't eat
ravenous.
enough. You cannot eat enough. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, luckily nobody ever told me that stuff. Maybe because I was so frightening. They were like, don't tell her. Don't tell her.
Yep. Good.
Oh my goodness, Hannah, we are down to just our last minute or two, but I'm so grateful you found the time to come play with us and talk with us and watch your story again, because it is beautiful and it is yours, and you deserve to have this beautiful story and this beautiful memory forever.
Thank you. Thank you for your enthusiasm today to talk about birth with me.
Now I just want to go ask everyone.
I know, there's so much
I have to remember
more
boundaries. Like, hi, how are you?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell
Tell
me
me
your
It's
story.
really hard in the doula world to remember
Do you
those
have pictures?
boundaries.
Tell me, show me
I want to
everything.
know everything.
All right. Well, I'm so grateful, because this is not a conversation we get to have every day. And that's what we do here at the She Said Project. We open the doors to have some of those more challenging, more delightful, more intimate conversations. So thanks for joining us today on the She Said Project podcast. Thank you for listening to the She Said Project podcast. All materials contained in the podcast are the exclusive property of the She Said Project, and That's What She Said, LLC. For more information on our live shows, go to shesaidproject.com.